Hello and good afternoon everyone, and thank you for joining our Mimecast webinar today. That is all around focusing on improving your cyber resilience. So we're joined here by Julian Martin, the VP of Product Marketing at Mimecast, who will be presenting the webinar today. Okay, so Julian, over to you.
Thanks very much indeed, Amy, and good afternoon everybody. I nearly put a title slide on here saying explaining bitcoins would be the easy part, and what I mean by that is the attacks we're all suffering and enduring on an almost regular basis and seemingly increasing basis are creating a lot of angst and a lot of hits on our reputation, business, IP, financial loss, etc. And what I want to do today is to take you through all of that and some of the examples and reasons why we are under attack, some of the drivers, some of the methods used, and really touch on the solution. I've only got a couple of slides on the product. This is not a product sale, it's more of an education about what you need to take to your board as opposed to just trying to explain what bitcoins are. And at the very, very end, the last slide I have is some startling results from a survey we did in existing installations using some of our competitors' solutions such as Microsoft. And I mean Microsoft from a competitor, we're a Microsoft partner ourselves, but we'll have a look at what actually slipped through the net, and you can gain access to this report as well. More on that, as Amy said, later. But 1 minute 40 seconds, that's the average time, not the most, but the average time from a problem entering your organization to the first time click by one of your employees. And that's really the extent of the response time you've got. Because most people in a work environment on a work laptop trust it. They trust that it's hardened, it's got the right security, the various levels and layers you have. They think the security looks like this, but in reality it looks a little bit like this. This was taken from Doomsday Preppers. He's got the revolver, he's got the Dobermans, he's got the tin hat, but you can hardly run upstairs, not really approaching it in the same way. Because these attacks are coming from multiple sources. They vary from methods, from what they're targeting, from what they're looking to gain out of it. Some of it may be notoriety from the script kiddies in bedrooms. It may be anonymous, so they're taking the approach of disrupting, whether it be civil or public or private organisations. It may even be state-sponsored attacks. People are after your IP, and we hear this all the time. And these attacks, they originate from Syria, Iran, China, Russia. And believe me, when you're looking at, in one case, a $55 million ransom or $55 million wire transfer fraudulently conducted, they're retirement funds. The rewards are huge. But you may not be the target. And this is certainly the case in some of the very public ones where a third party was used as that stepping stone. You may be, as suppliers to your people, the public, in a hospital scenario, they're after the information, the private healthcare information. You may be somebody like in a professional services capacity, a lawyer, an accountant. They may use you as that stepping stone. And your business, your organisation is at risk for a number of reasons, a number of methods that are actually used. I'll cover all of these in a second. But if you've got certain letters in your domain name, they can be abused. If you accept resumes, and forgive me, I do live in the States despite my English accent, CVs in the UK, if you accept CVs or resumes on your website, you are openly asking people to send you files. You don't know who the sender is. You don't know what these files contain, but requesting CVs, if you like, on the website can be a problem. Now, if you've got a team of people in finance, most people have, but the emphasis here is on the team word, because if you've got a team, it can generally be abused. People can't verify and check if people aren't in the office. If you've got a LinkedIn profile, now I hazard a guess that most people on this call now in a professional sense use LinkedIn. I do. It's something I use on a very regular basis. We don't need to worry about keeping in contact now with mobile phone numbers because sometimes we have to change those. But your LinkedIn is a constant way of getting over to your friends and past colleagues. Some of you on the call may have a life deemed interesting enough to be on Facebook. I don't. But think about this. When you're going to a conference, why would you post on, and I've seen it on LinkedIn as well, why would you post the fact that you're going to a conference, that you're going to be out of the office? Letting people know prior, because people are looking at this information. They're looking at the management team on the web. You know, the two Peters, Neil and Ed, our main exec team there. they're looking and profiling these people. We do it, but you have to be careful. You don't want to remove those people and suddenly go very close to your customers and prospects. But you need to think about the impact that could have on your business if they are able to trawl that information and then misuse it. And there are plenty of tools out there available freely on the internet that allow you to, just with a simple domain, mimecast.com for instance, allow you to go and say, send me every email you can find on the internet, and you will quickly find Peter Bauer's email, Neil Murray's, our founders, their email addresses, as well as Peter Campbell and Ed Jennings, the CFO and COO respectively. You can then start to target them. You can then start to look at what they're saying on LinkedIn and how they're communicating and how they're interacting with their colleagues. And these are actually two, not so recent, last year, but two invitations I received to myself. Mr. William Hung from the Bank of Greece, Head of Operations, and Sabrina Brown. Now, William Hung, I'm not quite sure he looks like the typical Greek person. I've only been to Greece twice, once on a conference and once on vacation. But Sabrina Brown, that company, Lewis Berger, is actually a genuine company in New Hampshire on the east coast of the States. Both are absolutely fake, and each one of those were found to be fake by LinkedIn, and they're on a constant trawl through their database, if you like, to find these people who are LinkedIn trolls, that people are just link in with you and actually say, hey, I'd like to catch up with what you're saying, what you're thinking, but it's not for the normal means. The advice I give you is if you do find someone who comes through, even if they are connected to your colleagues, because your colleagues may have fallen for the dupe, just wait a week. I did, and then LinkedIn kindly displayed this message because they were found to be fraudulent. So bear in mind what you say and how you say it on LinkedIn. But if you don't want to go to the trouble of reading or should I say, listening to what people are saying out there in the social world and all that social engineering you need to do, then there's plenty of books out there that will actually educate you on how to hack the human, how to break through the barriers. Because it's not just technology we need, it's actually human interaction as well. So let's set in the scene. Let me give you a few real-life examples now of the sort of technology, processes and policies, and sometimes human policies, you now need to review and have a look at. The first one here, now this has been used in a number of guises. That grey bar there which currently says Chase, that's been replaced by, I've seen 6 different variants at different banks across the globe. And this is a standard sort of message. You've tried to get into your account, we've temporarily deactivated, please click here. And what that link may do is take you through to, in this case, chase.com. But what you'll get is a please re-enter. And like what appears to be a blip, it will then grab the information you entered, but then let you through so you don't suspect anything. These are all methods they use, and with this particular case, what you need to do is look at educating your users to say, hey, be vigilant. Just be careful. This may not be from who it's impersonating. Now, this one was really interesting because this came through to me. As I say, I do live in the States, but you can tell I originate from the north of England. But this was actually a package delivery from Walmart. Now, the interesting thing here is I've never been to Walmart, but what you need is technology that will not only give you the attachment that comes with it, and more on this in a second, because that attachment may contain malicious code, but what you need to look at is how can I give people a safe version of this so they can verify that this package or this information within, and again, think about CVs for your HR department, how can I verify that that CV in that Word format is who it's pretending to be from and what it's pretending to be? With this, it's actually Mimecast here, this will give you an instant file preview so you can verify, yes, I do want that information, and then if you need to, bear in mind a PDF is usually sufficient, certainly the case for HR, but if you need the full attachment as well, you can simply click on that left link and it will then go through the sandbox and give you the full version in its native format. But there are 2 technology dupes, if you like. What happens if there's no malware involved? What happens if they're looking at whaling, Wiretran, W2, P60 type frauds? Well, this one's an interesting one. This was, again, the Nigerian prince has moved on from telephones and faxes, is now on email. And this is really a poor one. John Anthony Copeland. His return address is ceoofficial11@gmail.com. So, guys, must try harder. But you know, that's easy to spot if you've got that return address. You need to look at that sort of thing from a technology and those people pretending to be you. But what about looking at keywords? And you need to actually look at having some form of trap that looks at keywords like urgent request, file transfer, Western Union file transfer for global payments. So let's look at a slightly better one. Mr. P. Bauer at Mimecast.com, very nearly Mimecast, but P. Bauer is the way it would be written. It would be Mimecast.com. But Mimecast, again, for the human eye verification, that may have slipped through. Now, the interesting thing here is Michelle Lanzavino was Peter Bauer's executive assistant, his PA. All she did was update her LinkedIn profile here. So somebody's watching Peter Bauer's LinkedIn and seeing who he's connected to, what he's saying, how he's saying it. And all Michelle did was update her profile to say, hey, I now work at Mimecast, I'm the executive assistant. The person who set up this particular, and these are all live examples, the person who set up this particular dupe was watching it, set up Mimecast.com as a domain, P. Bauer as a registered email user within that domain, and sent an email through pretending to be him to Michelle. She did nothing else other than update her LinkedIn profile, and within 2 weeks this attack had happened. Let's go into one of my favourites from last year. This is actually Mr. Peter Campbell, who, Peter Campbell, is our CFO, so he has the right to transfer some large funds of money around the globe. But if you look carefully here, and you'll see no find attached. Well, Peter's actually Canadian, so we'll give him the benefit of the doubt in his grammatics here. But the important thing, because people do put that in there to make it look human, so it doesn't look like it's machine generated. But look at the Mimecast. It's not actually mime. There's an R and an N pretending to be an M. So to the human eye, it looks like Mimecast, but when you have closer inspection, it says Mimecast. Now, some people will rely on technology that will simply go and check a known list of bad domains. If you're reliant on that sort of technology, this would have never come up, because it's a single instance. This is the first time this domain's been used, so it's not made any lists yet. And it only refers to Mimecast type hacks. And it was actually, when you look at the WHOIS record, this was actually a fully registered domain as well. The registration took place at 6:40 in the morning, and as usual, the dupe happened at 5:09 at night, or during the end of the day, when that team of people cannot be contacted. It cannot be verified across. So Peter Von Dien, who's the corporate controller, cannot verify that Peter Campbell actually wanted this nearly $50,000 transferred to this fictitious account. But as I say, relying on looking at URLs in a known problematic list in whichever form you've got, blacklist, etc., is flawed. You have to look deeper than this. And how people register these domains? Using stolen credit card details. And then the credit card's found to be fraudulently used, the account operates out of China or something like that, the transfer is done, and the whole chain collapses after. Now, the biggest I found personally, there was a great example here of $55 million being transferred by FACC, an Austrian aircraft part manufacturer, to supply to Boeing and Airbus. They lost $55 million in one transaction. I know people locally where I live who've lost over $1 million. Business hits like that hurt, no matter how big your organisation. I did meet somebody at a recent conference, CIO forum, that actually transferred $30 million, and the CEO got on the plane, flew over to Hong Kong to try and stop the transfer. Unfortunately, it was too late. But people are abusing the technology. You can no longer rely on that technology layer. And as I say, my last slide here uncovers some of the things and quite startling results which your technology is letting through. And if you haven't reviewed your technology in the last 12 months, then certainly please do so. You're lacking. They're lagging behind the threats which are coming through, because 23% of people will open the fish and click on the link. So we've done URL checks. We've explained why standard URL checks are insufficient. So what about sandboxing? Well, if you're using sandboxing in isolation, it's extremely poor again, because you can get through sandboxing very, very easily. I guarantee everybody on this call will be using sandboxing as a technology, but it's easy to bypass. How? Well, let's look at the way the code is moved around. On the darknet, this came from a Forbes article actually, You can buy your own version of Stampedo ransomware. Stampedo is a little bit of a problematic type of malware because it randomly deletes files every few hours if you don't pay the ransom. $39 for the full lifetime license. People are making money by selling ransomware, not executing. Executing is a second piece of the puzzle. People are making money by executing. But what about sandboxing? Well, Injection Z, or as it say here in the States, Injection Z encrypting services, well, they will fully encrypt your file for you for $1.50. And these guys are so ethical that even if it's found to be detected, they will re-encrypt it for you free of charge. So for just over $40, you can have your own ransomware attack. All you need is somebody's email, have their own ransomware attack, and avoid any sandboxing they've actually got in place as well. Scary, isn't it? But ransomware isn't just targeting the user. It's now moving to the client-server environment. And we saw this in evidence at San Francisco towards the end of last year, earlier this year, where the message, "You hacked, all data encrypted." The San Francisco Municipal Transport Authority had no alternative but to provide transport free of charge to the city for the day whilst it sorted out its ransomware. And we've seen attacks like this all the time in the UK at healthcare, at professional services firms, law firms, entertainment companies, people targeting CCTV systems. Even someone recently targeting a library. Get locked up the library's technology. That's hitting the grannies hard. Why? Disruption. How do you solve it? Pay the ransom. And that's what most people fall for, and all that does is fuel more attacks. So let's look at layer 2. This is the most important layer because you can have technology in there, but it's a race, it's an arms race. As you come up with methods of stopping it, people come up with methods of avoiding it. Because 11% will open the fish and run the attachment, again, despite all the training. But think about HR. When was the last time you notified or trained HR not to open those CVs that are coming through, those job applicants? They're eager to work for great organisations such as BIES, but you open that attachment, it may contain a macro within that Word document. When's the last time you trained them to be vigilant? Do you have a policy in place that gives them a PDF version which has stripped out all the active code? There are 3 types of insider threats. There are those that circumvent the policy, those that will find ways round the file restrictions in Exchange and use non-sanctioned third-party tools. That's always a problem. It's a problem from a DLP perspective, but it's also a problem from bringing stuff in. You think about using your Gmail or Hotmail, and you're bypassing all your security gateway by tunneling in through a HTTPS connection. What about those with a malicious intent? Thankfully not so many, but there are cases where people are shipping out IP on a regular basis because they're about to leave or they're going to work for a competitor, or they're just simply a plant in your organisation. But what about those that don't know that they've been compromised, they're oblivious to the situation, because they're being duped all the time. Here's a couple of CVs that came through. Please send me files. This is information which the HR department wants. But you open that file, it's encrypted, you enable it, suddenly the macros run, the code is executed, and then your PC is locked up. It happens all the time, and these dupes are out there on a regular basis. But what happens if people are a little bit confused and it's a protected document? So let me open this up. Here's some great instructions looking like it's a Microsoft environment. This RSA logo piece here, that's actually the document I received that was supposedly the information in that Walmart delivery I never ordered. But it's got the RSA logo. It's designed to make me feel comfortable in the fact that if I click here to enable all the content, it will then execute the code. People are falling for this, and they're going out of their way to make it look like official Microsoft information. This is a brilliant one. It's the right office colours. It's got the right Microsoft logo. Everything's up to date. Enable editing. What happens if you're running something that's not in the right version? Again, they will come up with ways of looking like it's a Microsoft message. This was created in a previous version or a 2016 version, and you're on 2013, called very, very common. We see it in real life as well as the dupes. What happens if you don't want to go to that extent? What happens if you don't want to read the books about social engineering? What happens if you just want to send a plain text email? Well, back to the Nigerian prince. He started off on the phone, he then moved to fax, he then moved to email. And this is from a Dr. Bakari Tunde, who is talking about his cousin, Abasha Tunde. And for those of you who don't know this, Abasha Tunde was a Nigerian astronaut that was left in space over 15 years ago. Now, it will come as a surprise to most of you the fact that Nigeria has a space program, but he's been paid since then. $15 million, in fact, is sitting in an account, and Dr. Bakari Tunde is willing to share it with you. All you need to do is supply him with your bank details. It'll only cost $3 million to get him back to Earth. I believe he's probably hungry by now. But people are falling for this rubbish. They're getting very creative. And this is designed to appeal to those people who perhaps aren't as intelligent as those people on the call. So where do you begin? How do you start to address some of these issues? Well, if you think about the threats, and think about where it was 15, 16 years ago, think about how information's changed and how that risk has massively increased and how mission critical email has now become. Nobody sends documents anymore. We use DocuSign to electronically sign. We use PDFs to wrap it up. We email it to people. It's only in contracts and in legal negotiations where you'd want to send documents backwards and forwards, but that data, the employees and the infrastructure is all at risk, but it's also mission critical. So how do you start to address this? Well, there is an attack issue, and it's there from an external perspective. There are a little bit of an internal concern there as well from those malicious insiders, but not so, thankfully, frequent. But what about where your corporate data is held? It's all there, hackable, accessible to the right person with the right tools. But what about the operational dependency on that? And this may not be the fact someone's hacked. It may be the fact that you just have an outage. You may put all the best policies in place. What happens if things just go wrong? When we talk about policies, we offer a suite of things. We also do archiving. We also do continuity services with 100% SLA on availability for email. But the main thing, the main conversation point around here today is the security. We offer URL protection. We offer the attachment protection. We offer the impersonation protection. And new to the market, launched just this month, is the very first cloud-based internal email protection. And this is where we're monitoring what people are doing from an internal perspective. So whether they're a known compromised user or a bad, we can also do this. And this is really the only slide I've got on the products. And if you look at the normal number one there with the journal feed, what we do, emails delivered in the normal way. We take a journal feed. We then look at the attachment, the URL, the inspection, the content inspection, and we determine whether that email is good or bad. And this is after it's gone through the security. So this is email that could have, or documents that could have perhaps been downloaded from a Hotmail or Gmail account and is now in your network and is now looking to compromise your internal users. So it's bypassed all the security that we have in place for SMTP. Well, that is checked, but the beauty of what we do is we'll then go and remove the offending document, not only from the user, but also from anyone else on the network he's actually sent it to. So it stops those internal machines and those internal email compromises taking place as well. Again, as I say, that's a unique service. Just wanted to highlight that. But back to what you need to do from a policy perspective. Well, long gone are the days when you could stand in front of your board and say, we'll never have an attack. There's a good chance you will have an attack nowadays. But what you need to do is look at building in a contingency plan. This is where I say you need to review what you've done, because it's not just about offering the best multi-layered protection you can. If you move to the cloud, you still need multi-layered approach. You can't rely on a single vendor. But you need to look at a continuity element. How can you keep your business up and running? Should there be an attack? How do you keep it functioning? This is mission critical. You may be a hospital where you rely on email to swap patient records. Those patient records are highly confidential, so they need security policy. What happens if you are hacked? How do you remediate? How do you recover from all of that? Well, we happen to do archiving as well, and we offer a bottomless archive at a fixed price with a 7-second search SLA, generally delivered in 2 seconds, even on mobile devices. So we offer what Gartner say is the leading archiving service with the furthest right and highest in the Gartner Magic Quadrant for information archiving. Very proud of that. But combining these three, you need a layer of protection, you need a continuity service, and you need to be able to remediate and build back from the last good known state to recover. That's called cyber resilience. And you'll start seeing more and more on this. It isn't just a security policy anymore, it's a cyber resilience policy for your messaging platform. Protect, continue, remediate. That's the lesson I want to leave you with today. You could take the alternative, and whilst it may be cooling and exfoliating, it may work for a while, but for some people, it's not enough. If you haven't reviewed your policy for the past 12 months, you need to look at this. Because we can help you understand where your gaps are, and I'll come on to this in a second, one more slide. You need to understand what we can do to help. Our Bytes can help you structure your best policy around the protection, the continuation, and then the remediation as well. We can deliver a similar presentation to you. They're experts at this. We can help with a demonstration for the service that we at Mimecast here offer. But let me take you through this. These are the results. This is the final slide now. These are the results from a recent survey we did. We covered just over 23,000 users over 153 days it was, to be precise, period. We looked at 26 million emails. After these emails, these are all willing participants, after these emails had gone through the incumbent security solutions they were using. And this covered the likes of Office 365 security, it covered Barracuda, it covered Proofpoint, etc. So after it had already been cleansed and filtered, and the business was relying on that layer of security for its protection, we found these 3.4 million spam messages that were left to go through. Now more worrying. 6.6 or 6,600 dangerous file types were let through. 1,600 malware attachments were let through, of which 1,200 were already known buyers, things like Locky and Stampedo, etc. 421 were unknowns, first-time hits, and we caught that. But more importantly, 1,697 impersonation attempts. It only takes one impersonation attempt to get through, and your business, your reputation, and your employees are at risk. And there are certain things you can change. You can't change a national health number. You can't change your address without moving and selling your house. You can't change your date of birth. If they're getting all that information and they're managing to dupe you from a personal record perspective, they can now abuse you on the internet and broader financial scene. They can now get your IP. And we've heard with some large fraudulent transfers being made as well. That report is what we call an ESRA report. It's something which, again, first time as a vendor, we're publicly publishing this every quarter. We'll keep combining the multiple tests we do. Those numbers will increase as we see it. We'll see new threats, new attack vectors coming in as well. You can get this full report from your Bytes contacts. Just reach out and say, could I have the Mimecast ESRA report, and that will be sent to you. It's startling. And as I say, I want to leave you with one thing, and that's review what you've got in place today. Make sure you've got the right policies around your security, your protection, your continuity and remediation. That's called cyber resilience. That's what you need to develop. If you're relying on technology from a couple of years ago, you're not meeting today's threats. Back to you, Amy.
Brilliant, thanks Julian. Yeah, so thanks for that. So if you do have any questions, as mentioned at the beginning of the webinar, you can just pop those in the questions box, which is just at the right hand side of your screen there, and I will read those out for Julian shortly. Okay, we do have one question here from Josh, who's asked, what are the biggest threats Mimecast see today?
I would say beyond doubt it's the biggest threat is probably the malware. Spam's the number one because it's just so prevalent, and you know, we're handling billions of email messages on a monthly basis, but the spam's the number one, but it's easy to trap spam now. We solved that problem back in 2008, but I would say the biggest threat we're seeing, not from the number, but from the types of methods used, is actually impersonation, because it bypasses, it's malwareless, and it bypasses anything you've got from the technology. You've got to bring in a layer of, it's a great question actually, because you have to bring in that second layer, that human training element, to make people aware, make sure they're vigilant and understand the threats that are out there. So I would say the biggest threats from a impact in the potential business is the impersonation side.
Thanks, Julian. So we do have another question here, and they've asked, doesn't Microsoft offer all of this?
Yes, they do. They offer it in various guises, but there's a couple of differences in the technology. Bytes are a top Microsoft partner. We're a Microsoft Gold partner ourselves. We work with their technology best and foremost. We do work with other technologies as well, like Gmail, etc. But Microsoft is our number one. We're a proud Microsoft partner, and we look to offer a complementary service. So when I talked about multi-layer, you need multiple layers in the security stack. Microsoft offers security. Some of those examples you saw there in the Ezra report were after those Microsoft layers have done their job. You need to do the same thing. Even if you move into Office 365, you never relied on one security vendor before, and if you move to Office 365, you need to do the same thing. And it's about multi-layers. Microsoft's got some great uptime, for instance, 99.9. What happens when Office 365 goes down? What's your contingency? This is where Mimecast come in. Microsoft's going to go some great security. What happens if the security is broken? Again, this is where Mimecast come in. So with both those examples, this is where you need that multi-layered approach. So yes, they do, but think about multi-layering and the same methods we've employed all the way through since time began on email.
Okay, thank you. And we have one here from Andy who's said, Mimecast seems to be a lot more stringent than other solutions in this space. What do you typically see in terms of false positives?
Now, that's a great question. When I first started at Mimecast, I've been with Mimecast 9 years, we used to offer a zero false positive policy, and most people didn't believe that was the case. So what we offer now is a 0.0000, and the reason why that was in is to make it look more believable, not because we started letting things through, but what we did, we introduced a way where people could move the scale up or down. But if you think about the methods we employ, where an email comes in, for the very first time that domain communicates with you, we will actually bounce it. And a standard email retry will happen half a dozen times, and it's only after a certain amount of times that we let the email through. This is all before it even gets to the user, and it happens very, very quickly before it even gets past our gateway. So we'll verify that the domain's correct, and then we'll have a look at the various layers. And then when you come on the service initially, we'll also build up a list of known good senders you communicate with by monitoring your outgoing emails. So we build up a known of good senders. So again, all these methods we employ, and then things like the verification of a PDF first before sending through the full attachment, mean that we get almost zero false positives. I've never had a false positive in 9 years. I've never had somebody say, I tried to get this through and it never made it. I've actually only ever had 2 spam messages in 9 years as well. That's how secure this service is. So great question there. That was a great one.
Brilliant, thanks Julian. So we've got a question here from Stelianos. So he said, how does Mimecast compare to Symantec Messaging Gateway / Message Labs?
That's a great question. Message Labs is an organisation I know well. I know the people who founded this. They were the grandfathers of the SaaS movement, and they did what's known as a managed service, where they put together a number of disparate solutions and bolted it together. The way Mimecast differs is we were designed for the cloud from day one in 2003. We've got our own unique operating system, which means we've got full API sets available to anybody who wants to integrate, say, SIM vendor. We've got a continuity service, which offers a 100% SLA, and everything we do is administered through one single interface. One pane of glass for all the security you need, all the continuity with that 100% SLA, and all the archiving, remediation, always on data, if you like, policy as well. So it's a full combined service to deliver everything you need to wrap around your Exchange environment. Symantec are great at security. Message Lab was great at security. But again, that's one of the things we take out on a very regular basis, because people come to us and say, great, I want to look and make sure I'm up to date with security. I now need cyber resilience. I now need that continuity. I now need that known good copy stored outside of my email environment as well. So Mimecast differs in summary because of the way we were built and what we now offer as technology as it's evolved over the years. A number of other vendors out there are still stuck in their same ways they were 2-3 years ago.
Okay, thanks, Jules. So we've got a question here from Sharon, and she has asked, she said, you mentioned email continuity. Do you offer an SLA?
Yeah, it is a unique 100% SLA on email availability. Basically what we do is being the first point of entry, last point of exit for your email. As email passes through us, should that SMTP traffic drop for any reason, we will automatically, seamless to the user, connect directly down to their laptop and deliver it over HTTPS. The user themselves simply continues to use Outlook, both for internal email, calendar invites, external email. It's all delivered via Mimecast with a 100% SLA, even down to mobile devices as well. So even if you're upgrading your on-premise Exchange, or you're actually moving to Office 365, or there's actually an outage on either, we will continue to deliver email for you. That's one of our unique propositions delivered again because of this unique operating system. Great question.
Okay, so another question here from Stelianos. He said, how does the archiving differ from Microsoft Exchange Online archiving?
Okay, great question. He's pushing me today. The archive that Mimecast has, first of all, if you look at Exchange Online archiving, that's actually within the Office 365 environment. And should Office 365 be hit, because arguably it's the biggest target because it's the world's biggest installation of any email platform, it's all on the same domain, Microsoft.com. And that domain also holds Azure, Xbox, etc. Should it be hit or taken down, or should it have technical failures? So a drive fails, or there was an instance a couple of years ago where the Google data center in Germany was hit by lightning and they lost 0.003% of data. Should those Mother Nature incidents happen, there's no third-party copy. Microsoft still their archive in an active, passive, like sort of sense. So there are 3 copies. But what happens if that's hit and nobody notices? Or what happens if the technical guy sets it to a 3-day retention policy, not 30-day or not 3 years, but you only realise after 5 years that it was set incorrectly? There's no known third-party copies to go back to. That's what we do. Our data is held outside of Microsoft, designed to integrate with Microsoft. What happens if Microsoft goes down? There is no SLA on that email archive access. With Mimecast, you've got a 7-second SLA on search, delivered generally in 2 seconds, and also across any device. So the archive is not only always on, in whether it be downtime, updates, or a ransomware type attack. You've got the ability to access your data 100% of the time. That's important. If you're a law firm and you're about to go into court and you need to look at some evidence that you received a while back, you need that always on data. So we offer a SLA, which Microsoft don't offer a search SLA. We offer an industry-leading SLA of 7 seconds, generally delivered, say 2. It's stored outside of the Microsoft domain, and users can access it from any device at any time.
Thanks, Jules. So we have one more question. I think this is the last one, unless anyone else has got any that they'd like to add. This is from Andy. He said, you mentioned that you are top of the leaders quadrant for email archiving. Where do you sit within the email security gateway equivalent?
Oh, great question. Okay, so Gartner had the SCG Magic Quadrant. It was last published in 2015. And our technology has changed massively since then, and if you are a Gartner watcher, please speak to your Peter Furse, Brooks, Neil Wins, etc., Brian Leeds, those people who write those quadrants, and ask them for what they think of Mimecast, and they will give us top marks. The problem with the Gartner SCG quadrant is it's been shelved, it's been retired. There is no more Gartner SCG quadrant coming out. They will be releasing a market guide, and that's rumoured to be coming out in the spring, not far away now, and you'll see, hopefully, Mimecast having an exceptionally good placement in there. So some people will still look at the last SCG quadrant, but again, that was over 2 years ago. And 2 years ago, we weren't seeing the types of threats we're seeing now from ransomware and malware and impersonation attempts and internal threats. And a lot of the vendors highlighted in that are simply relying on that last copy of the tide of reports. The market guide, as I say, replaces the quadrant and will be released in the next few months, and you'll see where Mimecast will sit in there. I'm very, very confident we'll have an excellent position there because the technology we've got in most cases that I've covered here today are unique elements too. But great question, thanks very much for that one.
Okay, thank you. We do have another question that's just come through from Stelianos. He said, he said, searching for emails on mobiles, does it use an app? How does it work? Does it lock into the default mail program on the mobiles?
Okay, so great question again. Whoever you are, Stelianos, you're really putting me through the paces today, thank you. So the app itself is an app you can find on the Apple Store, same for Android, etc. It's a separate app, and it's a separate app for reasons which I'll cover in a second. But the way you'd search is you open the app, it authenticates using Active Directory, so if your Active Directory credentials are removed, you can no longer get access to it, and you search from there. The same app contains your inbox, it contains your outbox, it gives you the ability to look at all the folders you've ever created, and if you like, almost like a time machine approach, you can go back into any documents that are contained within those folders also. So it's a full functioning client for email, if you like, but most people use it for search. And it's invaluable. And it's when I first moved here to the States, I was sat in front of my bank trying to open a bank account, and they said, "Have you got your passport?" I said, "Well, no, I haven't got it, but I remembered I'd scanned it to the immigration services." And I simply did a quick search for passport, found it, and was able to forward it on. It becomes invaluable because you've got every access to every single email you've ever sent in my 9 years at Mimecast in your pocket. Now, the reason it's a separate app and not integrated into either the Outlook app or the native app on, say, the iPhone as I've got, is because that may fail. We want to keep it separate to make sure we can still deliver that on that promise of 100% SLA and email availability. And because, again, it's a separate app, you can then put it into the sort of mobile device management policy. We'll be launching a little bit more information around that later on this year. But it allows you to control it better if it's a separate app, again, because of AD access, etc.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you, Julian. So I think that's all the questions we've got today. So thanks everyone for joining, and thank you so much, Julian, for presenting as well. So as mentioned at the beginning of the webinar, there will be a critique form that pops up at the end. So if you would like any more information, or if you would like the email security risk assessment or a follow-up call from one of our Byte specialists, just pop that in there and we will be in touch soon. Okay, so thanks everyone, and thanks again, Julian, as well.
All the best. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.